Welcome to On the Rise. I am Evan Murray, and this is awesome. We're here to talk about all the fun facts of Chinese language music. Hi, everyone. Today, joining me from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, is an artist named Ginalina. Gina, nice to see you here. How you doing? And can you tell us all a little bit about your music and what's going on right now?
Hey, Evan, it is good to be here. I'm excited to be coming over to Jade Music Festival, singing some songs and listening to what everybody else has to offer. Would love to tell you a little bit about what I do. So my name is Ginalina. That's my stage name. And I do West Coast family folk. And in a nutshell, I write music for children and their families that follow the life journey that I've taken with my family. And I sort of wound up here as a singer-songwriter a little bit accidentally in my profession, although I've been doing it for as long as I can remember, just writing and performing in cafes and in restaurants, and then much more recently on children's stages and in schools and at community events and in theaters. So it's been a really lovely and rewarding and unexpected journey to be here. And I've written five family folk albums that range from, themes that talk about, our place in nature stewardship and community building, family relationships. And I'm really excited to be to have released a new album, and it's called Going Back. And I'm excited about this one because it's a little bit of a brave deviation, and it's in Mandarin, English, and Taiwanese. And it's a collection of modernized traditional music from Taiwan and China. So I'm super excited for this one to meet the world.
Very interesting. Yeah, I had a chance to listen to one of the demos, and I found it to be quite eclectic. Like I know that you call it children's music, but I could imagine listening to it, going for a long walk or even for a drive. I mean, it sounds like it's very colorful and really kind of captures your attention. So it sounded really nice, actually. And what I'm wondering is, so where did this come from? Where did this idea come from? Why did you think of doing it like this? And what is kind of like tell us more about like your ideas surrounding this kind of, this kind of idea and putting all this stuff together on one album.
Yeah, right. Well, I guess there's a couple elements to it. When the pandemic came and all the live music industry stopped, I really wanted to check in on people that were close to me, my parents especially, and they live in a different province. And, we were kind of finding it tricky to stay in touch and have these long conversations to pass the time. And I thought that it'd be really fun to find a subject, a topic that we could both kind of get into. And you know what? It just started happening that we were talking about their childhood growing up and the things that they did and the places that they went. And, I was kind of asking some questions like, well, what did you do to pass the time? And how was school? And what kind of music were you listening to? And, these kind of conversations bloomed and blossomed into so much more. And I had a chance to hear their experiences of some of the songs that they listened to growing up. And some of them have made it onto this album. But the most, special thing about this is that my parents play a pretty big role in the shaping of this vision. I didn't really know that I was going to sit down and write an album, themed on songs that I didn't really grow up with, in Mandarin and in Taiwanese, which is a language that my parents spoke in the house, but I didn't speak. I just heard it. And, it was really a project of, first just conversations and getting to know each other, relationships, and digging into their past that led into a little bit of my own curiosity. And so I started researching a little bit more about these songs and the histories and the cultural context. And it really shaped itself to it really took form in a way that was exciting and nostalgic and just culturally really special to me because it brought me back to a place of my own roots, my parents' roots. And Evan, I want to tell you a little bit about two friends that I met over the pandemic. And their names are Jirong Huang and Sarah Tan. And these two individuals are master instrumentalists of the Chinese erhu, which is the two-string violin, and the zither, or the traditional guzheng. And meeting them over the pandemic gave us a chance to talk about their music styles, and talk about my Western music styles and my love for banjo and acoustic guitar and lap steel guitar. And we just started to play together. And we played together actually over Zoom. And we got together in the studio when it was safe to do so and recorded some songs just for fun. And I realized that these songs that I was learning from my parents and researching really had to come out in a fresh and exciting Western way that was near and dear and true to my heart. But I really wanted to bring on Jirong and Sarah to be part of this experience.
Mm. So this is, yeah, so this is really a fusion. This is like, is it musically fused or is it like, would you say culturally fused or, and it, well, is it like completely fused? Is that what you're doing here? Like, you got culture, language, music, and all of it is like intertwining between these different worlds. I mean, you know, obviously we're all in one world, but was that the aim, was to blend everything together to feel harmonious, or was it, are you trying to accentuate certain parts? Like how would you describe that?
You know, as much as this project came together as something really specific, oh, I want to record traditional Asian folk songs for a Western audience, myself included. I I sort of felt like this project had wings of its own, and it was a little bit spontaneous in terms of how it all came together. I had a vision of bringing out these traditional songs in a way that was going to be really relevant and meaningful to myself because, again, these are not songs that I grew up listening to. Rather, these are songs that my parents grew up listening to. And I really wanted to learn them well so that I could do the songs justice and to bring that sense of nostalgia to my parents when they hear it. But I really wanted to embrace the fact that I live here in this Western world, and culturally I'm very Canadian, and I love folk music, and the traditional sounds that I kind of go back to are always guitar and banjo and lap steel and fiddle and violin and even accordion. We started including accordion in a lot of my music. So when this project came together, I knew I wanted to be true to its roots so that people who grew up with these songs would recognize them and feel that connection. But I also wanted to be true to my own roots and allow this music to kind of take off for what I call my own Western folk music. And although the project itself is pretty personal, it's got a pretty detailed story of how it came about. When it gets into your ears or somebody else's ears, when I'm playing it on the stage, when it's playing in someone's car, or when they're going for a walk and listening to it, I just want it to be fun. I just want it to be music to them, just something that's going to kind of catch them and say, "Oh, that's different. I haven't really heard." The guitar and the mandolin and the erhu together. In fact, I didn't even know what the erhu was, but now I do. And, I want them to be surprised at what the zither sounds like, because I don't think a lot of people might recognize that instrument. And I know I certainly didn't. These are instruments that I've recently learned about and I've recently started to explore, and I love the sounds. The erhu is so much fun. It's got such a personality. It could be, it can be bright, it could be dark. The zither is so sparkling. That's how I like to describe it. And I'm just really excited to introduce all these listeners to, not only these more traditional folk sounds, but these blended sounds of these new instruments in this really, Canadianized folk style in these Asian languages that are reminiscent of old Asian folk songs. So I don't know how to describe it or how to wrap it up in a, in a nice, neat bow, but I'm really excited for people to listen to it.
Well, and I mean, using the vehicle, it sounds like especially for, Western people when they're listening to folk music, they'll obviously, like, we call things a genre based on the way I guess, that we imagine it or comparing to how other people perform these types of music, right? So, I mean, and it sounds like this is a vehicle you're carrying with the folk music elements because you're a folk artist. And then you're also delivering like, cultural stuff and then, different parts to make the folk music even more interesting, like these two traditional instruments you're talking about. So I think like there's, like if you're culturally Chinese and you're interested in the folklore and that kind of stuff, I think it becomes interesting. I think it becomes interesting for anybody, really. And then if you like folk music, it's also interesting, for everyone. So I mean, sounds like this is like kind of a, if it was a restaurant, you'd have all these different types of meals that you're serving. Right? But tell me about this, Gina. Like, what was the purpose of you becoming a musician to begin with? Like, how did that all come to be?
Yeah, well, I think every artist has their own, story that's, kind of a meld of personal things and situational aspects and maybe people in their lives that have kind of guided them here. And for myself, it was just my way of expression. I've always leaned towards writing as a way to talk about my feelings. And I've always really enjoyed the creative arts, creative writing arts. And when I was in high school, I had a little bit of a pivotal moment where I picked up the guitar. And, with this guitar, I allowed myself to write and sing pretty openly and vulnerably and process a lot of deeper emotions. And I took my guitar to, living rooms and to coffee houses and to restaurants. And, it was always a comfortable place for me to not only share what I was going through my music, but also to listen to what other people were going through in their life experiences through their music. And I built a really nice community, a supportive community of singer-songwriters that took me through university and even on my travels. Because after I graduated from engineering, I moved to China for a year. And I moved there because I was studying Chinese. I really wanted to get in touch with my roots and learn about the culture and dive into my writing and my reading. And oh gosh, there was so much to learn. And I was so humbled when I was there studying with these incredible international students from all over the world, studying and mastering Chinese. But when I was there too, I also sang and I wrote. That's the first time I started to write in Chinese, was when I was living in China. And I experimented with some Mandarin lyrics, and I took them to, singer-songwriter venues, and I tried them out, and I really liked it. I found that, my personality was able to take on the culture a little bit more. So the way I sang and the words that I chose and the music that I played to accompany it, it all sort of matched my life, my personality when I was living in China. And, when I came back to Canada, I started working right away. I jumped into healthcare engineering, and that was really lovely. I loved working with my team there. I did a lot of project management and kind of business administration things. And I was always writing music on the side. I was always writing about things that were happening in my life, things that I was observing, people I was meeting. And I kept all these songs in my notebook and for myself, really. And then, that big game changer happened. Evan, do you know what that big game changer was?
No, I don't.
The big game changer was, when I had my kids. So I have 4 kids, and when I had them and when I was on maternity leave, all my songs revolved around our lives together, a new family, myself as a parent, and I was able to relive so many firsts again and find excitement in all these ordinary and extraordinary moments. And so that's when my family folk music started to sort of mm, take form and take shape. And I recorded one album based on, a lot of adventures that we had outside in nature and exploring nature. And that album turned to 2 albums where I then explored the home life and all our adventures there. That turned to 3 albums where I was looking at community and where, as a family, we were finding ourselves within the community. That turned to 4 albums, which was looking at the value of children. And, recently this new album has come out, and it's this going back album, and that's just really, it's not something that I would have been able to predict growing up. It's not even something that I would have even asked for, or 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 imagined that I would continue to be doing even now. But it's really a joy. I find it, what a pleasure it is uh, to be a musician in life whose role it is to capture experiences that I feel, but that other people can also relate to and identify with.
Right, especially because like when you're saying about, like you're using music as an expression about the way you feel and these kind of things, and then you're making this comprehensive album, like it's kind of like you're sharing um, many aspects of you, including like your ideas as well, like not just like feelings, but it sounds like it's a kind of a full scale kind of thing. And I'm wondering, with the kids, like, do the kids have any favorite songs? Like, do they listen to a lot of music? Do they have any favorite songs of yours, or do they have any like kind of favorite artists that you're aware of?
Yeah, well, my youngest is 9 right now, and then my oldest is 13. And, we used to listen to a lot of, family friendly tunes, just a lot of the Canadian musicians, international musicians. Some of my favorite musicians are from the States. And, some of the names, got started on a group called the Okie Dokie Brothers. They're fantastic. Elena Moon is another one that I really enjoy. Dan Zanes is another. Fred Penner's a classic. I've got so many, and also I've got so many peers now here in Canada and here in BC. We have such a great circuit of Canadian musicians that are out there. The Oot Newts is another one. Um, so many of us are also friends. Not only are we colleagues, but we really, enjoy each other's company when we're together. Um, but my kids have also really enjoyed a lot of these classics like Joni Mitchell, and there's a girl named Dina Manning that I just adore, and I've gotten my girls hooked onto their songs. And I grew up with Cat Stevens and James Taylor, and really loved their music. Those were the first albums that I purchased, and we listened to some of the Beatles. And it's neat because when my kids were younger, I would somehow incorporate them into the songs, whether it be their laughter, whether it be an echo, whether it be some hand claps. It was fantastic. And now that they're so much older, so much older, they're 9, 9, 10, 12, and 13, so much older. But they're also really, they've grown into themselves in terms of music, and they play an assortment of instruments as well. And they're actually starting to join me in live shows. Over the pandemic, we did quite a few where we had to kind of perform in our bubbles. And I brought them with me to some theater shows and to some recorded shows. And they were, I mean, I play with them. I play a family band, and they're
Wow.
really my family band. So, my family band used to be non-members of my family playing my family band. And now I'm really proud of them, and I'm excited to bring them bring them with me. And my son plays bass, and my other son plays cajon, and my girls play ukulele and accordion, and my husband plays accordion and piano and guitar. So it's just been really fun to see how this entire journey has kind of continued to grow and sort of stretch out in ways that we're just kind of, I guess we're just going with the flow. And I'm also really enjoying the fact that my girls are kind of exploring their own sense of musicality, and they're recording their own songs, and just doing their own layers. They're really producing their own music now. I listened to a couple last night, and they were doing Owl City remakes and some other pop remakes, and they're the next they're the next up and coming. They're incredible, harmonizing with themselves. They're playing all the piano lines, the bass lines. It's just kind of crazy. So it's exciting. I'm happy that this journey that I've been in, exploring music and sharing music, has translated itself into their own lives, and it's going to kind of take form however they need it to take form in their lives.
And so what is some of the processes that you go through in writing music? So the thing is, like, this album that's coming out, or that is out at this point, this is your sixth album to date. And is that like your sixth family album, or is that your sixth album in totality? Like, are you making a difference? Like, you do family music and then you do your own music, or is it all the same thing?
Yeah, this is my sixth family album, and before that, I have three albums, three singer-songwriter albums that I've released, and I did that back in my university and early 20s, and that was a lot of fun. I don't know if you can find it anywhere now, but those were lovely. Yeah, those were lovely albums and full of great memories as well. And ever since the family music started taking off, it's not even that ever since it started taking off. I don't want to put it that way. It's just that my life has been so intertwined with my kids, so I can't even help but, the stuff that I write is just reflective of the life phases that I'm going through. And because I spend so much time with them and I'm thinking so much of them, they make it into the music that I'm writing and sharing. And as the evolution of, our family life has progressed, I can really see the evolution of my music too. So in my early albums of family music, the songs would be wonderful little snippets of, the colors that we see in autumn and the shapes that we see out in the forest, and about the love that we feel when we spend time together. And, as the years have passed, I can kind of see a little bit of, these deeper thoughts coming in as we've explored, what community really means, what it looks like to be, building relationships, and what friendship looks like. And as we continue on again, we're looking at bigger things like what does courage look like to everybody? Or, what is it? How are we spending our days just enjoying the moments? And these are things that kind of everybody can relate to. And even in this album right now, I'm kind of exploring these ideas of where are our roots? What kinds of songs were our parents singing and our grandparents singing, and what does that mean for us? Who are we? Can we discover a little bit more of ourselves through the music that we play and the music that we listen to? So it's just really neat. I'm really enjoying following the process of just being open to the questions that come up in life, and using songs to try to answer some of those and reflect on some of those, and just and talk about some of those ideas.
So it sounds like it's just kind of a really organic process, I guess, depending on your feelings and your intentions. And when you sit down to write a song, do you have any type of ritual, or is that kind of happening? Is that kind of organic as well? Like, do you primarily write your songs in a certain room, or do you do it like once you start feeling like something is going to start coming out of you? Do you set yourself up in any sort of way to kind of let that out, or in the writing process?
Evan, I love this I love this question. When as you were talking, I was kind of imagining all sorts of neat things happen, like the candles going on, and the incense, and like me zoning, my eyes kind of rolling backwards. No, no, everything is so different. It really is. And recently I had the privilege and the honor of writing a song that was celebrating wild horses out in California. And I want to tell the story because it was so.
Oh, yes, please.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
And, I received this email from a horse advocate, and he was asking if he could use one of my existing songs and to change one of the lyrics so that the horses could be honored. And I've never received an email requesting a lyric change to uplift animals. So I was really curious, and I jumped on this this fellow's website, and I was looking at all the work that he does, and the background was really neat. He had a sort of a scientific approach to the benefits of rewilding horses and how it could be really beneficial not only for nature and for regrowth of grasses, but also for protecting against real wildfires and protecting horses throughout all that as well. And I was listening to some of his TED Talks and looking through some of his horse advocacy videos and getting to know some of the animals that he has on his ranch. This ranch takes horses from places that can't keep those horses anymore, and they try to rewild them, give them space where they can roam and just be. And anyhow, this feeling just kind of bubbled up in me, and I just felt like I had to stop everything I was doing that night. And I felt compelled to write a song for these horses. In my head, I thought, these horses are so noble. These horses are incredible beings. And the circle of life is so inclusive of them and us, and we're all helping each other. And I thought, this song that they're asking for to get a little bit of a lyric change, it just won't do it justice. I have to write a song specifically for these horses. And that night I took out my iPhone, grabbed my guitar, and I wrote a song about 10 minutes. And then I sent an email off to Bill and I said, I just read your email. I just looked at some of your content, and I'd love to sing you a song. I just wrote it, and it hasn't been produced. It's sitting here on my iPhone, and I want to play it live for you. So how about we hop on a Zoom meeting, and I'll play it for you live. And I did. And that song, I ended up recording it for them because they were really moved by it. And it's coming out, or maybe it's out by the time this podcast is released. But Evan, it was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful process that, half an hour before I had received that email, I had no idea that I would be doing that night. And it was so rewarding because not only was I able to, interact and meet someone who is so compassionate and loved these animals so much, I was able to meet them in person afterwards and sing the song for them. And they were touched, and they were also, able to see that maybe other people could be moved by the song as well. And it was so rewarding. And it's not the first time that songs happen like that. Sometimes when, there are these emotional outbursts that come out. But it's always a treat. Never expected, and always a treat.
And where can we find that song online anywhere?
You know what? It's again, I don't know when the dates are all going to line up, but early December is when We Are the Wild Horses is going to come out, and I'm really excited to see. Oh, it's just so neat when you have a song that starts off with with a human connection, and then it turns into, some sort of mental connection, and then it becomes a musical connection, and then you bring it to the studio, and my producer is just magic. And I sat down, played the song for him, and he said, "You know what? Let's go." And we recorded that same day, and 2 hours, and I was out of there. And then, a couple of days later, we exchanged a couple of notes saying, should we add more of this or less of that? And we said, it's really, really a gem. So anyhow, Evan, back to your question about how things happen. Sometimes I work on a song for years, and I'm sitting, with a chorus and a theme, and nothing is happening. I haven't been able to sort of find that momentum to bring that chorus or that one verse or that one, line to its whole entire fruition. But then other times, in the blink of an eye, a song is there. It's incredible. Evan, do I have time for another story?
Yeah, of course. Please go ahead.
I think I want to tell two because, if I tell one, I don't have a song to kind of end it with the big exclamation mark. But I really do. I want to share the song where I was looking at these video clips of Taiwan and these aerial views of the mountainsides, and these backdrops or these mountain views, these backdrops, the water, it was all supported by this incredible, I want to say Aboriginal-like music. I want to say Aboriginal-like is because I actually don't know. I can't remember what that music was about and where that music source was, but it was very throaty, and it was very raw, and there's just a lot of, almost like it was a little bit droning, like it was a lot of vocals, a lot of vocalization. And when I was listening to this music on YouTube and seeing these visions of, the Taiwan landscape, where my parents are from, it was really emotional for me because I was welling up with these thoughts and feelings, wondering about where I belonged and where I come from. Because, I have my roots back in Taiwan, but I'm born here in Canada, and I sort of walk within these two cultures, making it this new culture, making it where I am now, this kind of the fusion, which I feel extremely comfortable with. But, seeing these images, listening to this music, it just sort of brought up these questions like, my feet are standing here in Canada, but my heart, when I'm listening to this music and watching these videos, my heart feels connected to that land over there. So where am I from? Where is Gina from? And that experience was another one of those moments where I shut everything down, grabbed my guitar, grabbed my notebook, and I wrote a song head to toe and recorded it on my iPhone, sent it to my producer, and I said, we have to record this song. It's just really true. It's where I'm at right now. And it's going to come out soon. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it's already been done, and it's called O Land, O Land. And I just love those experiences when I can take, a feeling, an idea, and it all kind of translates itself into my fingers, my voice, these words. And one day someone else is going to hear it, and they can take with it what they will. It's going to be their own personal experience when they hear that. And that's going to be amazing, if only they knew where that came from. How incredible.
And that's it, folks. Please continue to listen to the next parts or continue to the next episode. Please don't forget to hit subscribe and follow On the Rise. This is awesome.